Welcome back to Morning Live right here on SABC2. Now, today, March 25th, of course, is International Day of Remembrance of the victims of slavery and the Transatlantic Slave Trade. Of course, people all over the world are just reminded of the horrors of the slave trade and also, celebrate the rich history of the African continent as well as diverse cultures. Now, we do know, of course, that in modern day, the National Freedom Network, also known as the NFN, a collaborative organization of South African role players, want to address the issues of human trafficking and mobilize as well as unite stakeholders in the field. Well, Kirsten Hornby is program director at NFN and she joins us this very morning. Kirsten, thank you for your time. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, for the benefit of our younger viewers, what exactly is slavery? How would you describe slavery?
Well, slavery is basically the controlled exploitation of another human being. And historically, I think that we're quite familiar with the concept of slavery and how it worked, especially in the Transatlantic Slave Trade. And I know that during that period, about 18 million people were transported into slavery through that time. But unfortunately today, there are more slaves now than there were during the Transatlantic Slave Trade.
Now, so these days it's more referred, or rather we hear the word more, the human trafficking word more is used extensively as opposed to slavery. What do you think the difference is there?
I don't think there really is much difference. I think it's just because we have this idea that slavery is something that has been abolished.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't really strike a chord with us in modern terms. So human trafficking is trying to recognize that even though slavery is no longer legal, people are still being denied their rights and their human dignity.
And take me through the impacts of slavery and human trafficking. For someone that perhaps is not aware what exactly we mean by slavery and human trafficking, what are the impacts?
The impacts on the person?
Yeah.
So basically what human trafficking would do is it would take a person, perhaps unsuspecting, trick them into a situation of control through maybe false job promises, fake modeling opportunities, and then exploit them in some way for the benefit of the trafficker. So that can be either forced labor or into the sex trade.
And for someone that has experienced that or witnessed it, or as you're explaining things, I think I've seen something like this, or it's happened to me, and I wasn't even aware that it's human trafficking. What legal steps can they take?
Well, we do have a new law that was passed about 9 months ago now, called the Prevention and Combating of Human Trafficking Act. So there is legislation that helps us to prosecute cases of trafficking when they arise. Yeah. If somebody has seen something and they would like to report an instance of trafficking, our current hotline is 0800 555 999.
But Kirsten, how's the law then, handling all these challenges and handling all these, reported cases of human trafficking? Are they as effective, or is it a case where people are now, vulnerable and, even afraid to report it because they feel like nothing will happen afterwards?
I think that is a big challenge that we have to address, and perhaps it's still because the law is very new, that we still need to gain momentum, we still need to be able to learn how to combat this crime effectively. I know that the rollout of training in terms of the police departments and all of that, that's still underway. So once that is completed, we'll see a much more effective way to address trafficking here in South Africa.
Absolutely. Now, the International Day also aims to, raising awareness about the dangers of racism and prejudice today, I understand. But how are these two linked, would you say?
I think it comes back to what I said earlier, is slavery was not recognizing another person as a human being. It was not recognizing their dignity, their humanity, and their value. And racism and any type of discrimination does very similar things to that. And obviously the slavery or human trafficking is the outworking of that. It's to say that now that you don't have value, I'm going to utilize you for my own gain.
Yeah. And what would you say were some of the, key and interesting discussions and topics that came out of the day?
Out of which day, sorry?
The International, Day. In trying to raise awareness.
The day today. I think that the most important thing to do is to realize that those people who were discriminated against, their lives mattered. They were valuable. And so it is with people today. We do not have the right or the authority to strip another human being of their dignity. Yeah. And, whether we're talking about that in slavery, in discrimination, or perhaps just your dealings one-on-one with other people, how do you treat another person as someone who is valuable and has intrinsic worth.
Right. Now, take me through, March 25th, of course, which is National Day of Remembrance. I mean, how do you plan on observing this day? What have you got planned on the agenda, and how can the public, importantly, participate? Because the thing about events as well that I think needs to change is sort of having a top-down relationship with audience members and the public, but also having an engagement, a dialogue, receiving feedback as well from the public.
I think the conversation about slavery is an important one to have. And I know, especially as Africans, it's a very sensitive topic because it was about exploitation of a certain people group.
Yeah.
And to be able to raise those concerns and to really speak about how, no, we do have dignity, we do have value as a nation, as a continent. And how do we move forward in that to own our value as human beings? And like I said earlier, to just look at the way we treat those around us and how can we live out treating other people with value and dignity.
Absolutely. Well, Kirsten, thank you so much for your time this morning. Thank you for coming to Morning Live.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much. Well, of course, that's Kirsten Hornby, the Program Director of NFN, is also known as the National Freedom Network, which is a collaborative organization of South African role players who want to address the issue of human trafficking and mobilize as well as unite, of course, stakeholders in this particular field. So on that note, though, let's take a short break and we'll be back after this.